It's 2 a.m. You have nothing urgent happening. No crisis, no emergency, no reason whatsoever to be awake. But you're lying there, completely wired, running the same three thoughts in rotation like a broken record that someone forgot to turn off. Maybe it's a conversation from 3 days ago that you keep replaying. Maybe it's a decision you need to make that you've been turning over for 2 weeks without getting any closer to an answer. Maybe it's just this vague, shapeless anxiety about the future that you can't quite name, but also can't quite put down. And the worst part isn't even the thoughts themselves. The worst part is the layer on top, the thought about the thoughts. Why can't I just switch this off? Why am I like this? What is wrong with me? If that's a familiar place for you, and I think it is for more people than will ever admit it, then I want to talk about what's actually going on. Not this surface level, just stop thinking so much advice. The real thing underneath it. Because overthinking is not a character flaw. It's not a weakness, and it's definitely not something you can fix by telling yourself to calm down. It's a signal, and once you understand what it's actually signaling, everything changes.
I want to start with something that reframed this completely for me. Overthinking is almost never about the thing you think it's about. Let me explain that. When you're lying awake replaying a conversation, your brain is telling you it's about the conversation. When you're spiraling about a decision, it feels like it's about the decision. When you're anxious about the future, it feels like it's about the future. But underneath almost every overthinking loop, if you trace it back far enough, you find one of three things: a need for certainty you can't have, a fear of making the wrong choice, or an unprocessed emotion you haven't been willing to sit with. That's it. That's what's really powering the engine. The thoughts are just the symptom. The loop is just what your brain does when it's trying to resolve something it doesn't have enough information to resolve, or when it's trying to avoid feeling something it doesn't want to feel. Let's talk about the certainty one first, because I think this is where most overthinking actually lives. We are wired, deeply, evolutionarily wired to resolve uncertainty. Your brain treats an open question the same way it treats a physical threat. It activates, it searches for an answer, it runs scenarios. In a world where uncertainty usually meant something dangerous was nearby, that was useful. In a world where uncertainty means you don't know if you should take the job offer or whether that text came across the wrong way, that same mechanism just spins uselessly. Your brain is trying to solve a problem that can't be solved by thinking about it more, but it doesn't know that, so it keeps trying. That's the loop. Not stupidity, not weakness, just a system designed for a different environment running in the wrong context.
And here's the thing nobody tells you about trying to think your way out of uncertainty. You can't. Some things only resolve through action, some things only resolve through time, some things never fully resolve and you just have to decide to move anyway. But the brain hates all three of those answers because action carries risk, time requires patience, and moving without resolution feels irresponsible. So instead, it keeps thinking, keeps running the loop, keeps searching for the answer that will make the uncertainty go away before you have to act. And the loop becomes the problem in itself, because now you're not just uncertain about the original thing, you're also exhausted, sleep-deprived, and even less capable of making a clear decision than you were before you started. Overthinking doesn't solve uncertainty, it compounds it. Now let's talk about the emotion piece, because I think this is the one that's most underdiagnosed. A lot of what looks like overthinking is actually avoidance. The brain is incredibly creative at finding things to think about when there's something it doesn't want to feel. And for most men, and I'm speaking from experience here, actually sitting with a difficult emotion is so uncomfortable, so unfamiliar, that the brain will manufacture almost any alternative to keep you from doing it. So you think instead. You analyze, you plan, you replay, you project into the future and catastrophize about things that haven't happened yet. Anything to stay in your head and out of your body, where the feeling is actually living. I had a period after something fell apart in my life where I became almost pathologically busy in my head. Constant planning, constant analysis, constant what-ifs. I told myself I was just processing. I was just trying to figure things out. What I was actually doing was running from grief, and the thinking was the running. It took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out that no amount of analysis was going to resolve what I was feeling, because what I was feeling didn't need to be analyzed. It needed to be felt. That's the counterintuitive thing about overthinking. The cure is almost never more thinking. It's less, but of a specific kind. Let me explain what I mean by this. Because less thinking doesn't mean distraction. Distraction is just another form of avoidance. It doesn't mean going for a run to clear your head, which is fine in the short term, but doesn't actually address what's underneath. And it definitely doesn't mean telling yourself to just stop, which is about as effective as telling yourself not to think about a pink elephant. What actually interrupts the overthinking loop is getting out of your head and into your body. Not as a metaphor, literally. When you're deep in a spiral, your nervous system is activated. Your brain is flooded with cortisol. You are physiologically in a state that makes clear thinking almost impossible. And the irony is that the more you try to think your way through that state, the more activated you become. The way out is physical. Breathe slowly and deliberately for 2 minutes. Go for a walk without your phone. Do something with your hands. Anything that pulls your attention into the physical present and gives your nervous system a signal that there is no actual emergency right now. That's not avoiding the problem. That's creating the conditions where you can actually think clearly about it. But here's the deeper fix, and this is the one that actually changes things long term. You have to get better at tolerating uncertainty. I know that sounds like terrible advice, but stay with me. Most overthinking, when you trace it all the way back, is really a very low tolerance for not knowing. And that low tolerance is something that can be trained, slowly, deliberately, over time. The way you train it is by practicing making small decisions without overthinking them. Not the big ones. Start small. What do you want for dinner? Don't deliberate. Pick something. What time are you going to the gym? Don't negotiate with yourself. Decide and close the loop. Every time you make a small decision quickly and commit to it, you are training your brain that unresolved uncertainty doesn't have to become a crisis, that you can move without perfect information, that the outcome of most decisions is less catastrophic than the anxiety around them suggests. Do that consistently and something shifts. Not overnight, but gradually the loop gets shorter. The 2 a.m. spirals get quieter. The decisions that used to paralyze you start to feel manageable.
The last thing I want to say about this is aimed specifically at the guys who've been living in their heads for so long it feels like home. You are not your thoughts. The thoughts are weather. They come and go. They feel urgent and significant and real in the moment, and then a week later you can barely remember what they were about. They are not the truth about you, or your life, or your future. They're just what your brain produces when it's trying to make sense of things it doesn't fully understand. And you don't have to believe every single one of them. The thought that says you're falling behind, you don't have to believe it. The thought that says you made the wrong choice and now it's too late, you don't have to believe it. The 2 a.m. voice that runs disaster scenarios about things that may never happen, you are allowed to hear it and not follow it. That skill, noticing the thought without being controlled by it, is quietly one of the most important things you'll ever learn. It doesn't come from a course or a productivity system. It comes from practice, from sitting with discomfort long enough to realize you can survive it. That's the work. It's unglamorous and it's slow, and nobody gives you a badge for doing it. But on the other side of it is a version of your life where 2 a.m. is just 2 a.m. And that's worth everything.